The weather suddenly became mild, almost Sirocco-like, and one day we crossed a blindingly white and intolerably hot sand desert mixed with pebbles, stretching for miles between the slopes of the snow mountains and the lake. Though it was in the middle of July, I never expected such heat at an altitude of 14,000 feet, but as I said before, Tibet is a country of surprises and contrasts. One day one may be in a blizzard, and the next in a hot desert or in a sandstorm. Not long after we had left the burning desert, we came upon a lovely oasis of blossoming shrubs and grassland watered by a placidly winding stream that meandered through a wide, slightly undulating plain between the lake and the receding mountains. The blossoms of the shrubs reminded me of heather, both in form and color, but the stems of the shrubs were sturdy enough to supply us with ample firewood, a luxury which we had not enjoyed for many days, having had to content ourselves with scanty yak dung that we picked up on the way, or with the roots and twigs of thorny shrubs found near watercourses or in the dry beds. Dry yak dung was rare, because we were off the beaten track, but even on the caravan route nobody would pass by a precious piece of yak or horse dung without picking it up for the evening campfire. The value of yak dung cannot be easily imagined by those who have never lived in Tibet or in the woodless regions of Central Asia. It is the main fuel of the country and burns almost smokeless with a hot, steady flame. Since I had only as much kerosene as the basin of my Primus stove could hold, I could use the latter only in emergency cases or on rare occasions, like in the rock monastery. Since then I had not had a roof over my head, though shortly after crossing the Shangla we had camped near villages. But after Tangski we had not found any human habitations except for a few huts near a cultivated patch of barley at the foot of the Pangong range. Thus fuel was always a major problem, and as important as the water and the grazing grounds for the horses. To find all these necessities of life combined in this uninhabited oasis was a pleasant surprise. So we settled down to a blazing campfire in a little depression near the winding stream, protected from the wind and cold. It was a most idyllic spot, with a superb view of the snow mountains on the one side and the big fjord-like lake on the other. I felt so happy and carefree that I decided to camp here for a few days, to explore the surroundings and to devote myself to painting and sketching, as well as to some quiet spells of meditation. Here in the utter stillness and solitude of nature, far from the haunts of man, under the open sky, and surrounded by a dream landscape of jewel mountains, I felt at peace with myself and the world. Strangely, there was no feeling of loneliness in this solitude, and no need for talk or outward communication. It was as if consciousness itself was stretched and widened out to such an extent that it included the outer world landscape and space and human beings, those present as well as those with whom one was connected in the past. Indeed, the past seemed to rise into the present on its own accord. This latter tendency I observed especially when there was even the slightest increase in humidity, when the air became heavy or sultry, when there was a tendency to cloud formation, and even more so when the sky was overcast. But even before any visible signs appeared, I found that my dreams had a direct connection with the changes of atmosphere, so that I could almost with certainty predict sudden changes of weather. I remembered the popular saying that if you dream of dead people, it will rain. I took this to be a mere superstition, as I could not see any reasonable connection between the dead and the rain. But now I observed that whenever I dreamt of a person who was very dear to me and who had been intimately connected with my childhood, but who had died some years ago, rain was to follow exactly within 3 days. Generally there was not a cloud in the sky, and not the slightest indication of any change in temperature or humidity when such a dream occurred, but with unfailing regularity a heavy rainfall, a thunderstorm, or a blizzard would follow. Due to the comparative rarity of rain in this part of the world, I observed these facts for the first time during this journey, and from then on I made good use of them. Whenever traveling Tibet in later years, I took notice of my dreams and regulated my itinerary accordingly.